Though many frightening predictions have already come to pass with shocking accuracy, this next prediction was so unprecedented it stopped people dead in their tracks.
The team began seeing essentially a mutation of a fungi, a mold, and the damage would start in Africa, and then the spores would be carried all the way across the Atlantic by the winds and land in South America, where it began to do damage there, and that this blight, these spores would move north, eventually into North America and show up there. That was a very serious threat to grasses, wheat, rice, corn, rye.
This wheat blight, or crop fungus, was foreseen by remote viewers years in advance. Major Ed Dames described it as a rust-like fungus that would mutate and attack large areas of crops. Ed Dames predicted that this fungus would originate in Africa and devastate food supplies, eventually spreading to the United States. At the time, the idea of a killer rust fungus sounded absurd. Most ignored this warning, and some even painted Major Dames as a radical alarmist. Until one day in 2007.
When I read this, as I said on the air, Ed, it stopped me cold in my tracks. Spores that begin in Africa, spread around the world. That sounds an awful lot like what you said.
The spores of which a fungal pathogen would begin in Africa and then migrate. I can't overemphasize the danger of this particular mutant. We said that it would be a mutation.
That is what you said, and it is a mutation.
The wheat blight had struck. According to official researchers, the disease is technically referred to as UG99, a virulent strain of a stem rust fungus that scientists first discovered in Uganda, Africa. Farmers everywhere have grown wheat varieties that resist stem rust, but UG99 has now evolved, and almost no wheat crop anywhere can resist it. According to remote viewers, this fungus will continue to spread, and is yet another indication that humanity was indeed heading towards a grim and horrific future. This crop fungus is in fact spreading, and has directly contributed to the increase in global wheat and food prices. Ed Dames and several of his remote viewing students, during a weekend workshop in California, began a project to view the future financial prosperity of the United States.
It was actually some of my students that wondered, based upon the economic situation 15 years ago, if there would ever be an actual global economic collapse, where the global economy would collapse. Why they would even imagine this, I wasn't sure. I think that these economists, I think that my students who were economists were actually motivated by investment ideas rather than necessarily looking at a catastrophe. This was of concern to them. So we engineered the right search terms, formulated it into a project attack schema, and went after it.
The conclusion, derived from professional and student remote viewing data, was revealed to the public in 1997 on the Coast to Coast AM radio show with Art Bell. The information that Major Ed Dames reported was shocking.
And it turned out that there was something there that was a discrete event that resonated with the idea of a global economic collapse.
Remote viewing analysis provided the conclusion that an economic collapse or a devastating depression would impact the United States, and eventually on a global scale. It's important to note that at the time of this prediction, the United States was viewed as having a bright and economically strong future. The U.S. was also on the cusp of what we now call the dot-com boom. The idea of economic downfall was simply foolish in the eyes of the public. Ed Dames' warning was ignored. But when were remote viewers expecting this event to occur?
Again, our bugbear is where and when, where in time, when in time will this particular event occur. It's for investment purposes alone, it's pretty important, not to mention in terms of preparation. We attempt to bracket the problem in terms of a time window by looking at precursor events that would demarcate a point that's close to our target date.
Ed Dames concluded that a precursor to global economic hardship would be skyrocketing gold prices. Ed Dames predicted that gold could even hit $2,000 an ounce. Today, a decade after this prediction was made, it appears that the workings for a global collapse have begun. The U.S. housing market is in serious jeopardy. The U.S. dollar is plummeting in value, and the price of gold is skyrocketing as predicted by Ed. In 2005, years after this prediction was made, gold was steady at $425 an ounce. In 2008, only 3 years later, gold more than doubled in value, climbing past $1,000 an ounce. Over the years, Major Ed Dames and his team have looked at a wide range of targets: solar flares, earthquakes, devastating crop killers, and natural disasters. He discovered gold and provided detailed information regarding several missing person cases. But what remote viewers fear the most is what is yet to occur.
And
You know, Ed, all those years ago when you forecast these very gloomy things, how could we know that here we are all these years later, and damned if it doesn't look just about as gloomy as you forecast it would be, or at least we're on the cusp of so many things that you forecast that are beginning to come true now?